Do you know what your industry NAICS code is? It's important. Not only does the IRS use it to be able to check your expenses on your taxes versus other people in your industry, but most importantly, lenders and credit issuers are looking at your industry NAICS code to determine what industry you're in and if that industry is high risk. I mean, not knowing your NAICS code, even worse, having the wrong NAICS code actually chosen for you means you're going to be harder to get financing when you need it. It's going to be harder to get the interest rates you want, harder to get the terms you want. Bottom line is if you're not able to get right now the money that you actually want to get and the terms you want to get, this could be a huge problem. And correcting this one thing can go a long way to being able to get you more money at better terms. During today's training, we're going to decode this. We're going to look at business names. We're going to help you choose the right codes for your business that put you in a non-high risk industry category. We're going to talk about how to figure out what your NAICS code is, how to know to choose one that's not in a high risk industry, which ones lenders and credit issuers look at as high risk, which ones to avoid, which ones to choose, everything for you to select the right industry code, stop being looked at as high risk when you're not, and being able to get the most money at the best terms. We got a lot to cover, so let's dive in. So what do business codes and names have to do with funding denials? Well, there are certain industries that are basically perceived by lenders as just extra risky. And if your business appears to be one of these industries, well, then the problem is in a lot of cases, you can get an automated denial. So we got to think of it like this. Nowadays, when loans, credit lines, credit cards, they're all underwritten by computers initially. Computers are looking for all of these things. And one of the things that these computers look for is if you're in a high-risk industry or not. And they categorize you as high risk. They throw up a red flag. Sometimes it results in an automatic denial. Other times it just results in you paying higher interest rates, getting less money than you actually should. So the key here is to get you favorable terms, and we can't do that unless we get you away from higher risk NAICS codes. So lenders make a judgment of what industry a business is in based on a couple of things. First of all, your business name. Your name itself can actually indicate what business you're in. So for example, one of the biggest problems I deal with is that I deal with a lot of people in the lending industry, merchant accounts, and banks that want to consider us to be in credit repair because credit is in our name. And because business credit doesn't have its own NAICS code, because business credit isn't as well known in the lending community or that being an industry, then they try to categorize us in one of these buckets. And in a lot of cases, they try to put us in a credit repair bucket because credit is in our name. So it's a perfect example. Just your name could have indicators that you're in a high-risk industry even when you're not. Okay, the second is then they look at your business code or your NAICS code. Now, this could be an SIC or an NAICS. The difference is SIC codes used to be how the IRS categorized businesses. But as like things have expanded, right, dramatically, think about where we are now compared to the 50s and how many new industries are here that weren't there. What happened was the government needed to expand the categories of codes that were existed for industries. So as a result of that, they scrapped the SIC system. It's not really used anymore. And they went to NAICS, which gave them more categories or more ways to categorize different businesses, okay? So what do codes and names have to do with denials? Well, your job becomes finding a way to keep from being denied automatically. Knowing what lenders and credit issuers are looking for, meeting those requirements before you even apply goes a long way to making sure you can get approved and get the most money at the best terms. Based on your industry code or business name, these are things you can control. And that's what's absolutely absurd is that the vast majority of denials, I don't know what percentage, but I would say it comfortably that it's 70 to 80% of loan applications and credit card applications that are denied are because of stupid stuff you could fix. Like it's not your credit. It's not your income. It's based on this kind of stuff. It's stuff that's 100% within your control. But here's the thing. Do you know what your NAICS code is? I mean, like right now, like, can you tell me what your NAICS code is? Do you know the number? And do you know exactly word for word how it's classified with the NAICS system? If you don't know that, then there's all kinds of problems. Because when you're kicked back open a new bank account and the banker asks you what industry you're in and you say something general like I'm in consulting, to you, there's no harm. But what you don't understand is that when you say consulting, you're telling them to choose an NAICS code. They choose it. Then banks openly share information with each other through the Small Business Financial Exchange. And all of a sudden, one quick off-the-cuff answer puts you into a high-risk category with banks, all of which see you then as high risk. So these are the kind of reasons that you need to control those industry codes and the NAICS, because in doing so, this is what can get you most money at the best terms. So again, you got to be honest. You know, integrity is an important part of this. You don't want to lie about the industry you're in and say that you're in an industry that you're not in, because the problem there is that you are classified. A lot of things happens based on the industry that you're in. So for example, the IRS created this system to begin with because they want to see that, let's say somebody that's in e-commerce is claiming equivalent expenses to what other people in e-commerce are claiming. Like if you're claiming insane expenses compared to anybody else in your industry, it throws up red flags. So you immediately have potential for audits. And I'm not an accountant, and this isn't accounting advice. I'm just saying that the way this system works is that they created NAICS to try to find these companies that were inflating expenses and claiming bogus expenses. So that's your first problem. If you're in the wrong industry, if you're trying to lie and claim you're in something you're not, creates issues with the IRS. The other problem is lenders and credit issuers aren't stupid. I see so many people try to buy shelf corporations and fake trade lines and all this stuff to fool billion-dollar-plus worth banks. They're smarter than us. So the reality is they're going to do other checks to know what industry you're in. So you can't lie about the industry you're in, but there are a lot of subcategories in industries. I think we looked at real estate the other day. There was over 32 categories of real estate. You can choose what works best for you, and sometimes it's one or the other. So look at Credit Suite, for example. Where are we? Are we financial services or are we software? Everything we sell is software, but at the same time, we deal with financial services. So it's borderline. We can kind of choose which one we think is a closer fit to us. And that's a big deal because choosing software over financial services means we're low risk versus high risk. It's a 9-day difference between those two. So you've got to be honest, but ultimately there's oftentimes a couple that you could choose from. That's when you always want to choose the lower risk option. So SIC codes, or standard industrial classification, is part of a business classification system. It's a 4-digit number assigned by the U.S. government to a business. It makes it easier to identify the primary activity of the business. Lenders and others use it as an indicator of the kind of a business the company is in. First of all, what I don't like about this slide is the word assigned, because the reality is you're not assigned a code necessarily. What happens is you're the one that tells the IRS what industry you're in when you file taxes. You're the one that chooses the industry you're in when you set up the Secretary of State. You're the one that chooses the industry you're in when you file for your EIN. So it's not like it's assigned. What's happening is that they're asking you what you do, and you have to understand that they're asking you to figure out what your NAICS code is. So my advice is always never let them figure it out. Tell them, here's my exact NAICS, or in this case, SIC, and here's exactly the wording of that SIC as well. And I'll pull up an example of this so you can see exactly what I'm talking about as we continue to go further into this training. So the SIC code system was developed by the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. The first 4 digits signify the general industry of a business. For example, 8711 refers to engineering services. So we can see that it's used by the IRS. It's used by, for example, the SEC to even figure out with publicly traded companies. And when companies trade, what sector are they actually in? What industry are they in? So it's not just used by the IRS. It's used by the SEC. It's used by a lot of organizations other than just lenders and credit issuers. Then numbers are added to the end of this 4-digit chain. So that's how an SIC works. It starts with this prefix, this 4-number prefix, ultimately showing the overall category that you're in. Then we add the other numbers to kind of sub it down into what you really do. So for example, 817701 is naval architects. Well, 871103 is engineers agriculture. So we can see here that we can see that the first designator, 8711, is contractors engineering general. You get the picture. The first 4, 8711, 8711, is both indicating that we are in engineering. Okay. Then if we come here, we can also see that 8177 is an indicator of architects. So the first 4 here are the overall category. In this case, engineering. 8711 for SEC or for the SIC code, just the 4 digits indicate that it's engineering. I don't expect you to remember engineering. It might not be the category that you're in, right? But it's just to go to show an example that the first 4 digits are engineering in this example. The last 2 actually specify what kind of engineering company it is. In this case, 03 ending means you're in agriculture. 05 means that you're basically contractor. You're basically in general an engineering general. So you're an electric contractor per se. Versus if you're an agricultural, then you'd be 03 at the end. So that's how SICs work. Now, there are over 30 individual codes under the 8711 Engineering Services Code. Gives you an idea. So here is the problem, right? Here's the problem, is that most of us normally, what we would do is we would actually come in and we would say that we are an engineer, right? If they ask what industry we are in, normally we would answer, if we were an engineer, we would answer that we're an engineer. Like, that sounds normal to us. But what we don't understand is that there's 30 different subcategories of engineering. So if I say that I'm an engineer and I don't say anything else, I'm letting the IRS, lenders, credit issuers, everybody determine which of those 30 subcategories I'm in. Some are high risk, some aren't high risk. That is the problem, is that even as basic as engineering, with 30, as basic as real estate, there are over 30 subcategories. So we have to really nail this down to really drill this down to figure out exactly what our code is. So the North American Industry Classification System, or the NAICS, is a more recently instituted business classification system. It's used to classify business establishments and collect, analyze, and publish statistical information related to the economy of the United States. For each NAICS code, there may be multiple SIC codes, as SIC codes break down more specifically. So what happened is, as I mentioned, things have grown a little bit. In 100+ years, we have all kinds of industries. Great, I'm listening to this really interesting audiobook right now, and it actually goes back, and I don't know when this thing was published, but I have to say it was at least 50 years ago. And so it's interesting to hear them talk about how radio is going to be the next big thing, and talk about TV and railroads and all the stuff back then that was really big. Actually, it wasn't even 56 years ago. It was like 80 years ago. Okay, but a lot's changed. A lot of industries have been created since. So the NAICS code was designed to expand the amount of industries that are there. You don't even really need to focus on the SIC nowadays. You really need to know what your NAICS is, because that's what's being used by all these institutions now to classify the industry that you're in. So, for example, as noted, there are over 30 SIC codes under the Engineering Service Codes of 8711, but the NAICS code for engineering services is way different. It's 541330. So while the plan is to fully switch to the NAICS systems, many industries still have the old SIC system deeply integrated. So there's still some places that are still using SIC, okay? And this is the thing as being a pilot, right? We have this new technology that now shows us all other airplanes in the air that have that same technology. And it's mandated that all planes now have this technology. But there's still a process of everybody switching their planes over and adapting that technology. So whenever we adapt a new technology like this of SIC versus NAICS, you're always going to have stragglers. You're always going to have people that have yet to actually come around and make the changes. So sometimes they're still using SIC. You should know your SIC. But you really need to know your NAICS. You need to know that's where everything is going, is to the NAICS code system. Okay, and Andrea says, wrong numbers. Well, Andrea says 8177 and 8711. That's correct. Not wrong numbers. I was showing you clear difference between the two, as we talked about. This was 8177 and 8711. So what I was doing here was 100% correct. I'm showing you that 8711 is engineering, while as we see 8177 is architect. So I'm showing that even though you switch one thing around, that you're talking about a completely different industry. So that's exactly what I was referencing. Flame, you're on point. Everyone who owns a business should be on this webinar. Yes, I agree. It's exactly the same point. So the NAICS, so while the plan, for this reason, the switch hasn't happened exactly as planned, some are still currently behind in using the SIC system. So SIC codes developed solely by the U.S. government. NAICS developed in conjunction with the U.S., Canadian, and Mexican governments. Pretty interesting, right? So now what happens is SIC codes used to just be for use in the United States. Then the NAICS we got with Mexico, we got with Canada, and now basically North America is looking at these codes. We're all using the exact same codes. So SIC codes groups together establishments based on either demand or production, and NAICS groups together establishments that use the same or similar processes to produce goods or services. That's pretty interesting. Let's talk about that again. SIC group together establishments based on either demand or production. NAICS group based on similar or same processes to produce those goods or services. So if you're following the same process to produce a good, then you can actually be in somebody that's actually maybe even significantly different than you may think, just because in the end, you're using the same or similar processes to produce those goods or services. Now, SIC codes actively used for business targeting in the private sector. NAICS codes actively used for government statistical purposes, amongst many other things. So obviously, when a system's developed like SIC or NAICS, and it's developed by, let's say it's the SEC, let's say it's the IRS for a purpose, a lot of others get a benefit for using those codes for a different purpose, right? And this is what we talk about today. Today, we're talking about lenders. Today, we're talking about credit issuers. Today, we're talking about how they're using these codes to make lending decisions. They weren't created for that purpose. They were created for statistical tracking by the government, for the IRS to keep track of expenses of different industries, for the SEC to be able to categorize businesses for publicly traded companies. But they're also used by a lot of other people in the government for a lot of different purposes, including for lending and credit issuing, to know what industry you're actually in. So you select SIC to report to the IRS. As I mentioned, it's not assigned. You're the one that actually chooses this. And they'll use it to determine if your business tax returns are comparable to others in your industry. If your deductions aren't reasonable compared to others in your industry, well, then you could be audited. Not an accountant. This isn't accounting advice, but this is how the system works. Okay. And so this is giving you a lot of information about, hey, applications get denied because you don't know your NAICS code. You have problems with the IRS because you're claiming categorical expenses that are not the same as other people in your industry. A lot of problems occur when you choose the wrong. Therefore, choosing the right SIC code with the IRS is essential. So you should know your SIC and your NAICS code. Now, certain codes are associated with industries that pose more risk than others. If you happen to choose one of these, then you may be denied funding. If you understand how the system works, well, you can choose one that's the best choice for you the first time instead of having them choose it for you. And let me explain the problem with that is that when you have them choose it for you, you will end up with a lot of different NAICS codes. And that's actually a problem for a lot of different reasons. And I'm going to pull up some actual credit reports here today to show you exactly what I'm talking about on the commercial credit report side, to show you exactly why this creates a problem. But the bottom line is that the credit bureaus will report multiple NAICS codes for you. And the issue there is that you don't want to have the wrong profile selected because it makes you high risk, or the wrong NAICS code selected because it makes you high risk. Now here, let me give you an example. So here's somebody that has a really low score, okay? 28 score out of 100. I use this credit profile a lot to show people that you can get a failing score when you have no credit. This person has no credit. So why are they given a failing score if they have no credit? Well, for two reasons. First of all, a few reasons, but first of all, lack of trade lines. They don't have any accounts reporting on the business credit report. But look at the next reason that this is an issue: risk associated with business type. So what they're saying here is Experian saying that we don't like it. We're going to put you in a higher category as you can get risk-wise because we don't like your industry type. Your industry type is seen as high risk. So because of that, it throws off your credit reports. It lowers your scores. And this is what lenders look at. This is what credit issuers look at to determine how much money should I be lent. It even says credit limit recommendation. They're recommending how much money you should be lent. What kind of rates and terms should you pay? Well, that's based on your credit score. Your credit score is very low. Your risk is very high, right? So are you going to get approved if you have a really low credit score and almost a zero recommendation of credit? Because 1,000 is as low as they go here in the business world. And that's the problem. This is why it's harder for you to get money than you probably think it is. Because what's happening is they're categorizing you as high risk because they don't like your industry. And when they don't like your industry, it shows in your business credit reports. And it's very common to see multiple NAICS codes on these credit reports as well when you're not clear about what your NAICS or SIC are when you're actually applying. So some examples of high-risk industries include casinos, pawn shops, liquor stores, automotive dealers, restaurants are in there as well. As with any business aspect, risk must be taken into consideration, and each industry has its own inherent risk. Some industries are thought to be riskier than others. Financial services, one of those that seem to be very high risk. So an industry may be seen as risky if there's a high chance of injury, either to workers or customers, or maybe considered risky if there's a high chance of theft, despite how the business is doing. So you might even say, look, I'm not high risk. Like, I'm a really low lending risk. Risk is associated for a lot of different reasons. So for example, you might submit an application to On Deck as a loan application, and they may have done enough work for, let's just say in this example, casinos, where they get burned a lot. All the casinos are defaulting on their loans, which could be true during COVID right now. Okay, so what happens is now all of a sudden that bank, On Deck, and this is just an example, a theoretical example, On Deck now says we won't lend to casinos because we don't like them, because internally we see them as high risk because our default rate is high with them. So it's not even that, and this is a question I get a lot, it's not even that certain industries are high risk. Certain industries are high risk even to each lender. It's like sometimes lender specific because some lenders have been burned by other industries. And we see this in lending all the time. It's why you always want to work with a funding source that works with a lot of different sources they can send deals to. Because if they don't, we see that some people are categorized in high risk with some lenders and not with others. Let me give you a perfect example. So credit repair is one of those industries, being in financial services, that's often deemed as high risk, right? But a lot of people, a lot of credit repair companies are our partners. They offer business credit financing with us using our software to be able to offer business credit financing to their customers. So so many of credit repair companies want money that we went to one or two of our top lenders, actually two of them, and we started sending them all these credit repair files. And they said, well, this is high risk, this is high risk. And we said, no, it's not high risk. Why don't you give it a shot? And we convinced them to give very low loan amounts to these industries. And guess what they saw? Those performed perfectly. They had no default. So then they started to give higher loan amounts. And we started to see more credit repair companies and started to approve more and approve more and approve more. And now of those lenders, we don't really have problems with credit repair considered to be high risk anymore, because we've proven to those lenders that they're not high risk. We've sent so many files, they've underwritten and approved so many files, they've seen their performance on those files that they no longer treat that industry as high risk. But the other thousands of lenders in that industry still do consider it to be high risk. So it's just one example of how lenders can actually classify you as high risk or declassify you as high risk based on factors like they get a lot of files for one kind of industry, and that helps guide their decision of somebody is high risk or somebody's not high risk. Okay, and Richard says NAICS 8561790 is pressure washing. Awesome. So see, Richard knows what he's saying, and I don't know if that's exact classification, but that's what Richard should put on the application. If he's in pressure washing, then he just did it right. Hey, what industry are you in? I'm in industry 561790 pressure washing. He's saying the physical name pressure washing, and then he's also saying the actual NAICS code. So when you put that on an application, you're not letting there be any confusion, is what Richard's really wisely pointing out here. Now, Carmen says, Ty, how about the risky codes to avoid for a credit repair business? Well, again, what you want to think about is this. What kind of business are you in? And, the funny thing is, we're a big company, and we still have a hard time figuring out our identity. Like, are we a software company? Are we financial services? Are we an education company? So you can be classified a lot of different ways. And in that case, you're probably better with a consulting or educational type category, subcategory, than something that indicates you're in financial services. So as you're saying here, Karma, you have the same problem we do, right? We're in financial services, we're software. So which do we choose? We choose software because software is low risk and financial services high risk. You're in credit repair. Credit repair is high risk, but are you really in credit repair, or are you in consulting or education? Well, you can kind of choose, because you could be one of any of those. That's when you kind of choose a consulting or an education type category. Now, don't ask me the exact code. A lot of people ask me that. Guys, I don't have that memorized. Think about it. There's over 30 codes just for real estate. There's no way that my brain has a reason to absorb hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of codes to know where you're better fit. But I'll tell you where to figure this out. And it's right here. If you go to NAICS.com, this is where you can actually go. And I go right up here to the top where it says, find your NAICS code. If you go in here, you can see the category. Then you can actually come down and you can actually break it down into the subcategory that you're in. So this will help you actually find the one. A lot of people ask me what theirs is, and I say, I have no idea. There's no way that I can actually be able to monitor or remember all of that. So even if a business is doing great, it can still be seen as high risk because of those reasons. So if your SIC or NAICS indicates your business is part of a risky industry, well, then the issue is that it makes it harder to get money, period. That's what the issue is. So this is what's so crazy about doing what we do. We focus on fundability. We focus on the stuff that gets you denied and helping you fix the stuff that gets you denied. And in our world, we see some absurdly crazy things. We see one thing changed, and all of a sudden somebody goes from denial with American Express, denial for loan, to changing one thing to $96,000 loan approval and no limit American Express approval because of one thing changed. Fundability matters more than your credit and your revenue and all that stuff. It all matters. But fundability matters more, because when you get this stuff right, you stop getting classified as high risk, and that stops getting you denied or facing stricter underwriting guidelines when you do go to get approved. So in these cases, the business got to seek out other financial options, right? Crowdfunding, angel investing, venture capital. And sometimes those other options are just more expensive, which isn't what you want. So it's key to remember that you get to choose your code. And while you want to be honest, you can be general. Okay, you do not have to be specific. Okay, and this is what we just talked about. What I'm saying is you can't lie. You can't say you're in an industry you're not. But as we were just talking about here with Karma, she's saying, hey, look, I'm in credit repair. Well, you could be in education. You could be consulting. You could be financial services. There's a lot of ways you could classify an industry. Then it's up to you to try to choose the one that you believe to be the lowest risk. But if you also sell boutique items, you can use NAICS related to that. So if more than one SIC can apply, that's when you want to choose the one with the lower risk. So as already mentioned, your business name can indicate that as well. So for example, instead of Joe's used auto sales, we've already seen that auto puts you as a high risk category. You might want to just change it to Joe's. Now, I imagine Joe's.com was probably taken, but it's just giving you an example. Instead of Chico's bail bonds, maybe you want to just be Chico's because you know the bail bonds put you into higher risk category. You have to choose, and these are decisions we all make. When we chose Credit Suite, we knew that the word credit would give us problems. Okay, and we still struggle, and we will for the life of our company because credit's in our name. So do we want to choose a name that gives people some kind of indicator of what we do? Or do we want to not do that and not have these high risk consequences that we have when it comes to getting money? Those are decisions you kind of have to make because, again, the more general, your customers really won't know by your name what you do. But then again, think about it. Amazon, right? I mean, Uber. Okay, a lot of companies have very general names out there that you don't know what they do based on their name. And some of these companies have to be Dell, Microsoft. Okay, some of these don't have, these are all the biggest companies in the world, right? Apple. I wanted to just say Apple. I mean, stop with anything other than that. Apple. Okay, so think about it. The biggest companies in the world have names that don't indicate what they do. You're wiser to choose something like that than you actually are with anything else. So for example, we have an asset that we own called Wentworth Price. And I don't know what we'll do with that. Maybe we'll do something with it, maybe we won't. But we chose it because it doesn't indicate what industry we may be in. And it's a good reputable name. It has credibility, just sounds like a rich, credible name. So that's an example, Wentworth Price, a name that means nothing in the world. It doesn't indicate I'm in a high-risk industry, and it doesn't tell other people I'm at risk, but still gives me credibility. And when we created that, I think we wanted our own funding leg. We said, okay, we want something that doesn't say funding, it doesn't say money and stuff because it's going to put us high risk. And we want something that it seems credible, it seems legit just because of the name. And that's when we ended up coming up with Wentworth Price. So it's just an example of how you can choose a name to accomplish your goal. In our case, a goal that shows we're credible and reputable. But one that doesn't indicate we're in high risk. Wentworth Price, that's not high risk. There's no way to categorize Wentworth Price without me telling you what industry we're in. So of course, choosing the SIC in the name doesn't indicate that you're guaranteed funding. Okay, there's a lot of factors to that. But the bottom line is this is definitely one of them that a lot of lenders and credit issuers look at. So what are the high risk industries? Auto, RV, or boat sales, computer and software related services, including computer programming, dry cleaners, gas stations or convenience stores, long distance or over the road trucking in some cases is seen as high risk, mobile or manufactured home sales, phone sales, direct selling establishments, real estate agents or brokers, real estate developers, land subdividers, restaurants, drinking establishments, taxi cabs, okay, travel agencies as well. Okay, so a lot of these are just some of the many different kind of high risk categories that are actually out there. Now, somebody on Facebook says, can't believe there are only a couple people in here. Well, it depends on where you are. So we typically stream to a lot of different groups and pages. And then what will happen is we actually then as a result have a lot of people streaming into one stream. There's a lot more people in here than just that. But that being said, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the love button. If you're getting value from this, help others get in here. So far, I have no likes and loves from any of our streams, which I think I'm doing a pretty good job. So if you're getting value from this, hit the like button, hit the love button, hit the share button. That's how we can get other entrepreneurs to come in and share on this information. Vanessa says, I have personal credit of 800, 6 hired inquiries in my report, 6 gas cards over the last 2 years, and I get denied. Yeah, it is. And so you bring up a good point. Let me hit on Vanessa's point from YouTube again. I have personal credit scores of 800 plus. 6 hard inquiries of a credit point. Not a lot, right? 6 credit cards open in the last 2 years, and I get denied. So this is something we commonly see is that people come in and say, my credit is good, my revenue is good, I get denied. It's because of fundability. Fundability is why I said in the beginning, it's 70 to 80% of denials that we're really seeing are coming from this stuff. It's not revenue, it's not credit. And Vanessa, you're a perfect example that even somebody with good credit, good revenue, good well-established business still gets denied because you might not have this kind of stuff right. And Karma says, consulting and education, got it. My business name is AIM for 850 Consulting. That's perfect because you abbreviated AIM. Nobody knows what AIM is except for you. So it's perfect because it helps you choose your industry then without it being chosen for you. And Vicky says, good morning. And wow, I never knew this. Karma, you're welcome. Flame says, how does this work pertaining to your website? Would you need to add more to the website, make it guided towards the industry you picked under the NAICS code? You don't really have to, but it's a great point that you bring up here, Flame, because what happens, and by the way, I love your name, Flame. It's like the coolest name ever. Like that's gonna make my, I'm not having babies anymore, but I have a baby name list in my phone of the coolest names, and you just made my coolest names list. So you're right. What it comes down to is your website should reflect what you do. But so I don't want to come in and say I'm, I sell phones and choose that when I'm in credit repair, right? Because they're going to go to my website, clearly see I fix credit. I don't fix phones. But if I come in and I say I'm in education and consulting, my website should reflect that I am in education, that I'm educating on consumer credit. So again, you don't want to change your whole website around. But think about that. That's pretty simple to do. If I consider myself an educator because I'm educate people on business credit and fundability, then there's nothing wrong with on our website saying, hey, one of the leaders in education on business credit and on fundability. So absolutely, the whole website doesn't have to do that, but a lender or credit issuer should be able to go to your website and know what you do. So if you're choosing an NAICS code, having some kind of reference on that on your website that makes it easier for a lender or credit issuer to connect those dots absolutely makes sense, Wayne. Great point. And Wayne says, I'm in the food business. I'm a food distributor. And again, I gave you where to go. If you're just coming in, you want to go to NAICS.com to start drilling down which category you're in and which subcategory you're in so we can actually figure out, you can actually know exactly what your NAICS code is. That's a very, very important thing to do. Bailey's Landscape Maintenance LLC says, I had to get an account with DMB and change some things. They had my business listed as janitorial building maintenance, even when I'm a landscaper, lawn care professional. So let me show you the problem here of what Bailey's just said, okay? Bailey's Landscape Maintenance, which clearly is not janitorial. Let's just be honest here. If your name is Bailey's Landscape Maintenance, it doesn't even make any sense that you could be put into a janitorial category. So first example here is how wrong these guys can get it, right? That's wrong. His name is Bailey's Landscape Maintenance LLC, and he's saying he was categorized as janitorial building maintenance because maintenance is in his name. So you see how bad this gets so quickly. Bailey's Landscape Maintenance, clearly landscaping, but they took the maintenance in his word of his name and they put him in the janitorial building maintenance category because maintenance is in there. This is why you have to tell them what it is or all kinds of problems arise. Now, here's what's crazy. All the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and DMB, they have what are called comparison scores. And comparison scores are commonly used by lenders and credit issuers, and they compare me against other people in my industry. It's me against all of them. So it's not just how I pay my bills. They tell lenders how I pay my bills compared to all these other people in my same industry. So in this example, when he is clearly in landscaping lawn care and not in janitorial building maintenance, when they miscategorize him, they are comparing his scores, all of his comparison scores are against people that are in the wrong industry. So and that can become a real problem. So you've got to make sure you get this right or you're oftentimes compared to people in the wrong industries. So currently both codes are being used, as we mentioned. So not by just to determine whether or not to lend, but other ways agency use these codes is the Department of Revenue may use them for legislative purposes. They can be used to extend government offered incentives as well, to keep taxpayers within a specific industry aware of changes to the laws in that industry. These codes are used by the IRS to determine product classes in relation to exchange of property or depreciation. For comparative purposes, for example, if your information doesn't track with others under your code, it could flag you for an audit. These are just some of the multiple examples that some agencies within the government are actually using. They can be used by SBA to categorize your business as well. Especially true when it comes to applying for government contracts. You must meet size requirements for contracts. And the SBA assigns a specific size standard to each NAICS code. And the SBA also uses NAICS codes to determine eligibility for women-owned small business federal contracting programs as well. And they keep a list of qualifying codes. I can go on and on and on and on. you do not begin to understand the depth of what your NAICS code is happening. All these things, think about it. The government's determining whether to flag you or not for expenses, whether or not you're in an industry to tell you about changes. They're looking at how people perform in certain industries to decide if they should regulate those industries. The SBA is helping decide if you should get contracts and you should be able to qualify for contracting programs and certain programs and loans, all based on this, and on and on and on. There's just so many reasons that this information is being used right now. Vicky, good morning. And Mackenzie says, like. Thank you. I finally got some likes. If you got value, hit the like and the love button, please. Because this is a very important topic that I feel can really help you get the money that you're looking to get. Karen says, love your willingness to give value prior to me signing up. I appreciate that, Karen. Thank you very much. Vicky, how do you know what category they put your business in? How do you find out? And Karen says, I'm loving your book. Thank you for that, Karen. I'm not ignoring you, Vicky. I'm about to tell you in a minute. And then Mackenzie says, which Mackenzie, I love your name as well, is having the same industries in your business name looked at as high risk. It depends. If you're seen as a high risk business, then automatically that name being in your name can indicate you're high risk. So let's go back here, because Bailey's Landscape Maintenance, you're getting a lot of publicity today from me because I say your name over and over. So let's look at Bailey's Landscape Maintenance, for example. Let's say that building maintenance and janitorial is high risk, and he's got the word maintenance in his name. They can be automatically categorized as high risk because maintenance is high risk and maintenance is in their name. It's just an example of how that can actually go awry. And Karen says, okay, to have my personal name as a company, I've had the corp for 35 years, all kinds of problems using your personal name as the business name, especially if you're a sole prop. If you're a sole proprietor, I'm not an accountant, and this isn't tax advice, but sole proprietors are audited 1 in 7 times. Corporations are 1 in 50. Just to give you an idea of how much more likely you are to be audited for a sole proprietor. And if you're a sole proprietor and you get sued, the company gets sued, you get sued. You are the company. You and the company are like one and the same. So somebody comes out to the company to come after you. Just some things you might want to consider there. Okay. I'm not complaining. Bailey says not complaining about the publicity. Okay. So let's go back to this question that I got here that I thought was very good. If I can find it now. Okay. Which is, how do you know what category they put your business in and how do you find out? So there's a few places these will show up. The first place they're going to show up is on your actual business credit reports. So if you go on your actual business credit reports, let me see if I can pull up that credit report I pulled up earlier. You can actually see your industry code based on your credit report. So this one you can see doesn't have one. This one does. So you can see that on the credit report right here, I see SIC and I see NAICS right here. Okay, so I'm looking at my code on this credit report. Okay, and I also am not able to see it here. So sometimes the credit bureaus themselves, and I'm going to try to pull up one more example here. So I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but I am going to try to pull one more example real quick. Okay, so sometimes the actual your actual credit reports will have that information. They oftentimes will. If you have credit reports established with the business credit reporting agencies, then there is a very good chance that you are probably going to actually that you're going to probably be classified as whatever they have on the actual credit reports. The other is your tax returns. Look to see what category, and I thought about I don't know the password to log in here, so I'm not going to be able to pull up that other example. But the bottom line is that that's the best 2 ways to know is look at your tax returns to see what code you're claiming there on your tax returns. And the second thing you want to do is you want to check your business credit reports. If you check your business credit reports and you check your tax returns, that's the best place to figure out if you're actually going to come in. And Karen, you're an S Corp, so that's cool. If you're not having any problems with your name being your company, then no big deal. If you are, then you want to consider changing that. But if your name is your business name and that's not a problem for you and your corporation, then you're in good shape. So to recap, businesses need funding, okay? But if your business is perceived to be risky, then you're going to be denied. So SIC codes, NAICS codes, and business names all lend to be risk perception of lenders. Choosing the wrong code or name can get you into a lot of different issues, including the fact that the IRS treats you differently. A lot of other organizations in the government treat you differently. The SBA treats you differently. Lenders, credit issuers, there's all kinds of problems. Your comparison scores and your business credit reports are messed up. Would the expenses that how they're being categorized and look at other people in your industry with the IRS are all messed up. You're considered to be high risk with lenders, credit issuers, suppliers when you're not. and on and on and on. You're not able to qualify for grants. You're not able to qualify for contracts from the government, all kinds of problems when these things are wrong. So want to learn more? Then feel free to give us a call. We do a free business credit fundability consultation with you. And on a consultation call, we look into some of these things for you to give you an idea of what's wrong with your fundability. We help you get your business credit reports for free. They're $249 from the business credit reporting agencies. And we also do a funding qualification to tell you all the money you can qualify for. It all happens by giving us a call at 877-600-2487, emailing us info@creditsuite.com as well. Also, you really should check out this really cool thing that we've got going on March 15th through the 19th. It's called the Funding 30 Challenge. And if you want to get money for your business, this is the place to be. We're doing something that's never been done before in the credit and funding industry. And here's what it is. During this 5 days, we're going to go at 1 o'clock Eastern time to about 3:30 Eastern time. You can only get in if you register. It's no cost to register. There's a really cool VIP option if you want to upgrade, but no cost to register. You get into a private Facebook group for the challenge. So once you're actually into the group Facebook group for the challenge, then what happens is you will actually go live from 1 to 3:30. And I have over 20 of the country's top financial experts coming in to teach you everything you need to know about getting money. I've got lenders, I've got funders, I've got fintech lenders in there. I've got angel investors. I got people that will help you go public, even as a small privately owned company, to get funds that way. We've got venture capitalists in there. We've got grant experts that teach you about grants and talk to you about grant writing and all the stuff you need to know to get grants. But the majority of it is going to be a lot of different funding sources that are going to come on and talk about 27 funding programs most people know nothing about, and a few that you may be already familiar with. The challenge is created to help you get funding. It's the whole challenge. The challenge is for you to walk away with at least 3 ways to get money for your business. I'm going to have somebody way smarter than me teaching fundability, somebody way smarter than me teaching business credit as well. During this challenge, you're going to know everything you need to know to get money to grow your business. 100% free to be part of. Funding30challenge.com is where you want to go. If you go to funding30challenge.com, you'll go to this page. You can quickly get set up. This isn't even being pushed. The page isn't even done. I'm waiting for some speaker pictures to come in to even fix this section of the website. And so it's not even really meant to be public facing, but I put it up just for you so you can tune in there. That's funding30challenge.com. Let me go back and make sure that these questions are answered. Karma says, actually, business credit reports and look for any NAICS and tax returns. Got it. Yep. Vicky says, I've never applied for business credit yet, only with my personal credit. Is that bad? Well, it's going to hurt you if you're getting money for your business. So you have to keep in mind that business credit limits are 10 to 100 times higher than what we find with consumer credit, 10 to 100 times. So if you want high limit accounts, you're hurting yourself using personal credit to try to get the money you need. If you use and start building business credit, very common to get $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 limits 30, 60 days into the process. Then the credit you're getting has no personal guarantee and credit check. You get it regardless of personal credit quality, and you're getting it without a personal guarantee. And you need business credit. It helps make you more fundable. I showed you business credit reports during this training today. That's what lenders and credit insurers are looking at. I even showed you a report with a failing score where somebody had no credit. So you could be issued failing scores with no credit. It makes it really hard to get the money you want. So if you want to get money for your business, you really want to consider building business credit because it definitely goes a long way to make you more fundable. Okay, and Vicky says, that's why I never didn't get PPP or anything I needed when I need your services. Yeah, a lot of people couldn't even get EIDL because it's based on you meeting credit requirements for SBA, and EIDL or SBA's credit requirements require that you build business credit. And Karen says, I'm going to be a new member in a few days. Awesome. I appreciate that, Karen. I look forward to working with you. And Vicky says, yay, she's celebrating Karen, which is awesome. Thank you, Jesus. That's awesome. Okay, Karma says, I have a STE PMB in my virtual address. Cancels fundability? Not necessarily, no. But again, because if that's not necessarily going to put you in a high risk category, but other things like credit, other things like bail bonds and casinos and stuff where it's blatantly there can definitely create issues. So don't forget to follow us online, creditsuite.com, top right of our page. You can go and you can follow us on all of our social channels. We go live Tuesday, Thursday at 1, 11 o'clock on Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, and on LinkedIn as well. Okay, we have daily tips on my LinkedIn profile, on our Twitter, on our Instagram, on Facebook as well. Hundreds of training videos on YouTube that can help you along the way. Okay, and we have a great podcast called the Business Credit Finance Show. I'm not saying it's great because it's my opinion. I'm the host. I think it is. But there's over 400,000 downloads. So 400,000 people downloading is a pretty good indicator that a pretty popular show with all kinds of really cool experts that teach you about running and growing a business. on there. Don't forget to give us a call for a consultation, 877-600-2487. Free business credit reports, free fundability assessment, and free look at exactly what you can qualify for funding-wise. Do you want to get money to grow your business? Nothing has ever hit the industry like this funding challenge. So make sure you check out funding30challenge.com. That's funding, the number 30challenge.com. And join our challenge where we'll challenge you to get 3 different funding options of all the ones we're going to go over with you from March 15th to March 19th, bringing in 20 of the country's top financial experts, the guys and gals that don't take stages. They're the ones behind the scenes that really control the flow of money in this country. We're bringing them in to introduce the funding programs and match you with the funding program. That's the goal here. The goal is not to teach you about all this funding and then you come to me and then I go make money on it by sending you to banks like brokers and stuff. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I want to do is bring you to the lenders, bring the lenders to you, bring the funding sources to you. You pick what works best, the 3 best. And then you go off and you get your money with that funder. And that's the whole goal of the funding challenge, is to link you, somebody that wants money, with a bunch of really smart financial people that have money to lend, come together so you two can actually match up and you can get the money you need to grow. It's all available at funding30challenge.com. So make sure you check that out. And Karma says, I'm definitely signing up. I want my business started, right? Well, we definitely will help you get your fundability set up right, as well as building business credit and getting capital. And can you help me with my situation? Vanessa, it sounds like you absolutely can. Give us a call. We even talk through that with you. 877-600-2487. That is our number, 877-600-2487. Tower says, just signed up. Can't seem to get any kind of credit with an 80 score. Give us a call. Give us a call to your advisor. Let's figure that out. Remember, your score doesn't matter. What controls business credit, as you're seeing in our system, is what tier of credit you can apply for based on how many accounts you have reported on your business credit reports. So give our support team a call. We will look through your reports, tell you exactly the sources you need to apply for to get approved. That will open up the next tier of sources that you want to get approved with. And says, cool, that's cool, right on. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the channel you're watching. Don't forget to register for the Funding 30 Challenge next month. It's going to be powerful. And don't forget, February 15th to the 19th, I won't be doing live. Somebody else will be doing them for me, because I'm going to be behind the scenes in the Funding 30 Challenge, helping probably 6,000 to 10,000 people that are going to be part of the challenge actually getting the money they need to take the next step forward. Not just learning about it, but actually meeting with lenders and funding sources, get the money they need to move on and make this your best year ever. If you're interested, make sure you get registered at funding30challenge.com. And the last question, Carmen says, well, with my credit consulting business, I would love to partner with Credit Suite for a client. This live, come on, Diamond. Awesome. Well, get with us, 877-600-2487. We'll talk to you about our partner program where you can offer business credit financing as a product and service to your customers. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. I look forward to seeing you on next week's training. We're talking about more cool ways to get money to grow your business. Don't forget to go to funding30challenge.com to register for our funding challenge so we can help link you up with the best funding sources to make this your best year ever.